Hello, I'm Robert Holmberg, and this is Nature's Waterworks, how lakes and rivers function. And this is part 6 of 7, dealing with the ecology of lakes and rivers. And this is the 6th of 7 parts, so we're nearly at the end. Okay, ecology of lakes and rivers is also called limnology. So ecology is the study of the interactions between the physical things such as what we call the abiotic factors and organisms, the biotic factors. And so limnology, the study of lakes and rivers, is just a part of ecology. But people also talk about environmental science, which is the biology, geography, chemistry, geology, physics, engineering, social science, everything about environments combined. So it's a little bit bigger than ecology. So water bodies are divided in zones, and these zones form different habitat areas for organisms. And habitats are just the abiotic and biotic factors that affect where an organism can or prefers to live. So sunlight regulates photosynthesis, and photosynthesis provides food for just about all other organisms. So, and this affects productivity, or the amount of biomass per unit time over an area. Now, sunlight penetration into water varies with a number of different factors: the angle of the sun, which varies with the time of the day as well as the season, and suspended inorganic particles that reflect or absorb light, the same with dissolved chemicals, and then organisms present. So you can have an algal mat that prevents light from penetrating the water column any further, and then wave action, which varies the angles of the light. So sunlight divides lakes into two basic zones: the trophogenic zone, the light where light occurs and photosynthesis can occur, and the photolytic zone below that area. So this diagram shows the photogenic and the photolytic zones, and then the photogenic zone can be divided into the littoral zone, which is on the shores of a water body, and then you can get the limnetic zone, where you can have plankton of various kinds. And again, light is the factor that determines the area of the two zones. There's also the benthic zone, which goes through both the photogenic and the photolytic zones, and that's just where bacteria and fungi and some other organisms live in the sediments. So we can look at feeding levels of organisms. This is called trophic levels, and they can be called producers or autotrophs if you get a little bit more technical. And these are photosynthetic bacteria such as cyanobacteria, which are often called blue-green algae, but they're not algae. Then there's the true algae and plants. So these are the producers. Then you have the consumers, or the heterotrophs, and these include all the various subdivisions of consumers: the herbivores, carnivores, omnivores, scavengers, parasites, and the decomposers, especially bacteria and fungi, but also other organisms help break up the material and can be called decomposers as well. And then you can look at them from a locomotory point of view. So you have plankton, and these are small organisms that are strongly influenced by wave or current action. So if there's strong wave or current action, they can't move against the movement. They still might have some limited locomotory abilities when it's calm, and the organisms will often move up and down diurnally in the water column. And plankton can be divided into phytoplankton, which are the photosynthetic organisms, again, the cyanobacteria and algae predominantly, and then the zooplankton, which are consumers, heterotrophs, especially the animals, but also protists. And if they can move against the current, they're called nectonic organisms, and they're powerful swimmers, especially fish, but also some insects and crustaceans. Then we have the riparian zone, which is an ecotone or transition zone between the aquatic and terrestrial habitats. So in here you can see the riparian zone includes trees and shrubs whose roots extend down into the water table where we're basically saturated soil. And it extends into the littoral zone, which is defined by the kinds of rooted plants. So you have emergent plants, more on the terrestrial side, such as cattails and sedges and things. Then the floating leaves, such as the water lilies, and then the submerged rooted plants, such as various pond weeds, like in the genus Potamogeton. Okay, if you look at water bodies in temperate climates, especially cold climates, you'll see that there are temperature changes between summer, where it's warmer at the top and colder at the bottom. But in the winter, they're actually warmer at the bottom and colder at the top. So they're reversed. And how this happens is because water is a bit peculiar in terms of how it changes its density over temperature ranges. Most things get lighter as they get warmer and contract when they get colder and more dense. But water has this unique property of being densest at 4 degrees. So colder than that, it gets lighter, and warmer than that, it gets lighter. So this causes differences in water bodies. So in the summertime, excuse me, I'm going to have to take a little swig of water. In water bodies, the temperature warms up and the surface gets warm and it changes its density, so it gets lighter, and wind action will move it only in that area which is warm. You can see the temperature detail on the right. So it's fairly warm. And then there's the time when, or place where the water temperature changes drastically. It gets colder and then it goes down. So the epilimnion is the place where there's warm water. The metalimnion is where the temperature change is quite rapid, and the hypolimnion is before that. And in this diagram, it goes down to 4 degrees. So only the mixing occurs on the surface in the summertime. Now, when you move into fall, we've looked at the top diagram before, and now we're going into the fall. All of the water eventually gets to 4 degrees Celsius. It's the same density, and so wind action, if there's enough wind and it's not shaded by trees and wide enough to get mixing action occurring, you can get this overturn in the fall. And so you get mixing of nutrients and oxygen. And then in the winter time, because again, the lighter, colder water near the surface goes up, it forms a layer of ice and floats. And this then gives insulation for the animals below that, so they don't freeze. If you look at the temperature thing, so it's colder at the surface, and then it warms up to 4 degrees for the rest of the water column. So we've gone through summer where there's no mixing. We've gone to fall where there's the fall overturn. We go to winter where there's no mixing again. And then we go to spring again where it warms up. Everything again gets to 4 degrees Celsius and can mix, and you have the spring overturn. So the implications of water mixing in the fall and spring is that oxygen can get to the bottom of the water body, nutrients can get to the top, and so with mixing, the deeper regions can get oxygen, so they don't become anoxic or anaerobic, and which would mean that you have no organisms that require oxygen living there because they can't. They die. So that's the end of this section. The last section is what you can do to protect your water supply. I hope you will listen to that one.